What is identity? Is it the passions and curiosities we follow? Or is it the people we connect to and love? Is it the history we share? Or could it be the values we are taught? Join me, and through performance and discussion, we learn to embrace our identities. And welcome to the second Embracing Identity live interview and Q&A as well. So hello to people tuning in now. We're really excited to get this one going. I'll open up the chat. If anybody wants to say anything during, I might have a little read. But same as last time, if this is your first Embracing Identity, welcome. What we're going to do is we're just basically going to have a chat. Then at the end of the chat, we're going to open it up for a 15-minute Q&A at the end. Sorry, seeing people coming in and reading things and trying to speak at the same time. It's like all too much for my little brain. But anyway, before I keep yattering on to myself, let me introduce my guest, Holly Prentice. I am absolutely, thank you so much for making it through today. I'm super excited to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience and we can get going?
Sure thing. Hello. Thanks for having me, Philip, of
My
course.
pleasure.
Yeah, so I am an actress, started in the dance world, really dance and musical theatre world, and then went into the action world as well. We'll come on to all this later, Philip, I'm sure, but it's
Yeah.
when someone asks you, what do you do? Because this is part of the identity thing, because you say
Right.
everything or nothing. So I'm going to say I'm an actor who loves to do action work and started from a dance background as well. But as we go through, I'm sure more will reveal itself as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so funny as well how we met, Philip. Like when you asked me to do this, honestly, I was like super excited because it was on a night shoot, wasn't it? And we just didn't
Yeah.
stop talking for like 10 hours or something crazy.
It was a wonderful mix of meeting a like mind. So it was the the Witcher blood origin, I believe,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, a mix of yeah meetings. It was wonderful meeting someone of like mind, so proactive, positive, and enthusiastic, and at the same time being incredibly cold and sleep deprived, and just laughing like lunatics for hours. It was so much fun, and yeah, a friendship was born that night. So.
Yeah, it's funny. No, we were crazy. We were delusional at that point because it was so cold. But
But what an amazing time it was. But yeah, I mean that is a great place to start. What you've just started there in relation to identity, wearing many hats. So I'm exactly the same myself. I've heard it referred to in a book called the multi-hyphen method, where you can have all of these different hyphens to what you do. But essentially they're all parts of you, and it's what you choose to identify with in this moment, what you choose to want to, a curiosity you wish to follow. So, I mean, we've not even touched upon the fact we've both sort of worked in fitness and stuff as well, linking the physical to the mental. So, first of all, how do you identify these curiosities, and how did you sort of figure, okay, I want to go and do this now, I want to go and do that now? How do you find all these and explore all these things yourself? How do you sort of think, yep, this is something I want to sort of engage more into?
totally. I think the main thing is I just have a passion for life. I think
Yeah.
if you have a passion for life, it goes into everything. Like it sometimes too much because you fill your day with not only like, you go to work, you come back, it will then be I'll go meet this person or send that email, same as you. And then
Mm.
avenues just open up and you kind of speak to people and you should want to try things, try new things. That's exactly what happened actually from the dance world into kind of the more action stuff just happened with a conversation and like being like, yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll go to the studio and give me a sword or boxing gloves or something. And that, it's that willingness to just be like, all right, I'll give it a go. And then you find your things that stick and that you like, and you keep going with them. Or some you don't, some you do a couple of times, something
Mm.
you keep going with. And I don't think it's not that it's lost if you then stop that skill. It's then pretty transferable, even if it's not a direct technical skill that you can carry across. I think, a lot of things like even you speak about wrestling and acting, same dance and action, or you're learning choreography, or there's still skills there that are transferable across the things that you do. Teaching fitness is another one.
Mm.
You're being able to stand up and speak in front of people. So when you're nervous, for an audition, an acting audition, you go in and you're used to seeing a lot of people in front of you. So I think a lot of the skills do kind of cross over as well.
I find that very interesting what you said as well about finding those connections, because that's something I'm always incredibly interested as well in how people work with that. The idea of it's almost called cross-sectional learning. So you might learn to play the guitar, but in then learning to use your fingers like that, it might teach you how to type quicker, or you might be able to use a certain gesture in your hand that would, like when you're sort of suggesting something in acting. So it might make you better with mimicry. It how and it's interesting that it's only in your own mind that you can see those connections and go, well, of course that relates to that. Of course, maybe I can use this here. And linking, like I say, having a one foot in the physical and one foot in the mental and finding those joins as well, how it all connects together. I find that endlessly fascinating. So is it something that you sort of consciously plan out? Is it sometimes something you just find in the moment as well?
Bit of both. Like I feel like I have a route and a plan of what I want to get and what I
Mm.
want to do, the jobs I'd like to do. But then it's being like open about how you get them. And it's normally along that bit of the journey where you meet those people who then it can go to this and then it goes to this.
Mm.
One thing actually that you just said that's quite interesting, like on your CV, I'm doing a job at the moment and I'm working for a West End musical and it's like, okay, well, how do we find you? Because on your CV, you've not got much dance and performing stuff on there. And it's like, well, yeah, I took it off for screen acting. So then
Yeah.
it's like you've got these different identities, but like that change constantly depending on who you're with. And that's even outside of the creative world. Like if you think, I don't know, like you go on a date, it's
Mm.
like, oh, I'm actually this person, or this is what I'm presenting today. So I think it constantly changes depending on the environment and who you're speaking to. Even another example is like my dad's friends would say, "What do you do?" I'm not going to go, well, I'm a fitness instructor, personal trainer, but I'm also a choreographer for a show and I do fittings modeling for money. Like you don't have to
Yeah. Long
all
sort
those
of.
things change. Yeah. So I think my answer is it constantly changes depending on the environment and who you're speaking to, and even for yourself, because your beliefs will change as well.
I think that's so true. It's like you speak to the time that you need to speak into. Like if you have knowledge or if you want to share an understanding with somebody, it's like, oh, I've done this as well. But it is interesting how like in a relationship or in a CV, like you say, how you tailor it to be in a certain thing. But ultimately, we're all these things all at once. I've noticed quite a lot recently that especially on like Instagram, I was sort of putting actor, pro wrestler, artist, but now I've just stuck artist at the beginning, and it's something on this project as well. And I'd love to hear if you feel this as well. It's like it's almost when I think of me myself and my identity, it's all just the same thing now. I've stopped trying to diversify in my own mind. This is me being this now. I am just a creative or an artist, and that encompasses everything. I stop I've stopped looking at the joins or the subdivisions of what I should be doing now. This is a great as well. It's like in the creative flow when I'm acting, and if I find myself in a moment, if I'm performing on stage or performing in performance art or hitting a wrestling move and the crowd are cheering, I am in that moment not going, I am being a wrestler now.
Yeah, right.
You're just like, I am leading a class now. I am doing yoga now. You're just in it and you're just loving it and your soul is singing. And why are we trying to identify with that? Purely, we should just be listening to the song of the soul and enjoying the moment, right?
But like against that, when I was younger, when I say when I was younger, this is kind of still up until like the last 6, 8 months, I'd say, is like the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. So like, that
Mm.
stuck with me for quite a while. I remember doing like an Instagram post, and it was like, do you think you can be hugely successful in one thing? I think I might have even asked you this question at some point. Or can you do lots of different things really well? Like, or is that a
Mm.
sacrifice you have to make kind of thing to be the best of the best? And I remember that question. I remember being like, "Oh, I'm never going to be like exceptional at one of them because I do all these different things." But the bottom line is, I love all those different things. And obviously, yes, perhaps, well, not obviously, who knows which one might, go to that point where it goes above a threshold and to what I think would be hugely successful. But I just find it fascinating that like my mindset's changed now from trying to think of, oh yeah, jack of all trades and master of none. I have to pick one and just stick with it. Whereas now, like, it's cool that I have to have a separate CV for my creative work and
Mm.
as a choreographer. And then it's kind of cool that I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, like this, I've done all this dance stuff. And they're like, oh, okay. So actually, you kind of forget sometimes that what you have done, and you have those skills, but right now, this is what I'm presenting to you.
I completely agree as well. And isn't it like that's such an interesting thing, the idea of exceptionalism, just going after that one thing, but then sometimes that removes, I mean, it is deciding, which means the Latin origin is to cut off all other possibilities. So you're exceptional in that one thing and you lose all these other opportunities, but in that one-minded singular process. Or do you become known as many things? And, I wouldn't say you're mediocre, but you have lots of different ways of going after all these, and then when one dries up, you go after another. But I would love to question it back at you. Isn't it, who are we judging that against? Because ultimately you're leading your own story. You are unique. There is no other Holly. There will never be another Holly anywhere in this world, right? So why are we looking at this thing about whether we have to be a jack of all trades or just an exceptional in one thing? What does it matter? If it's working for us, if we are finding ourselves in these moments, if we are pursuing all of these different avenues or going, no, I'm just going to dedicate myself to one. If that is what speaks to us, if that's what's true to us, true to our identity, then where is the diversification? It's ultimately what works for us as a entity, right?
Totally. And like we said before, I think it snowballs. Like if, it doesn't just, you don't just cut something off and then it doesn't help anything else. It's exactly right
Yes.
what you said about, one thing will lead to another, to another, to another. So actually, if anything, it can help you sometimes. I have found at certain points it does hinder you because your attention, it's hard for your attention to be fully in one place, um, when you've got lots of other things going on as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even like to be in a rehearsal room for an hour and a half where you're solely focused on that, then you come out and you go and teach a
Yeah.
class, but maybe you haven't done the playlist because you've been focusing on, you can't, my saying is you can have it all and do it all, but not all at once.
Yeah, I think that's where I
That's quite
completely agree, and I think sometimes that's where the pre-planning comes in as well. Like I know if I'm going to have to wear many hats in one day, as long as I get my sort of like ducks in a row lined up, so to speak, I can switch from thing to thing to thing. But it's like there's that David Bowie always says, if it feels like just like your feet aren't touching the bottom, then you're in the right place. So I always call it the right side of overwhelmed. If you're so have got so many things on the go all at once, you can't focus on being in the
yeah.
moment, in the present, then maybe that's where you need to, like, yeah, sort of reduce it. But then also you shouldn't reduce it so much that you're not leaving yourself open to opportunity. I've seen people do that before where it's like, no, I can only be this thing. And it's like, but maybe that would have been cool. But ultimately it's up to you to decide in yourself, is this a path I want to, and be open and be in the moment and listen to it. Is this a path I want to follow? Or do I need just to stick at this one thing now?
Totally. And I think for like since I graduated up until probably like last year, I was just saying yes to everything and anything.
Mm,
Like unpaid work, like which is, and I'm not, these are good or bad, depending on your judgment of them. Unpaid work, I would like create my own work. I would like just basically say yes to anything, try out new classes, try a whole new thing, like somehow do the social media for the gym that I now manage. You know what I mean? All
mm,
those things. I say yes, yes, yes. But then this past year, I've started being like, before I say yes, having that moment to be like, do I want to do this? Will I actually get something
mm.
out of this? What will I get out of this truly? And I think you're right by saying if it doesn't sit right, but you have to have that moment to let it sit. Otherwise, you just say yes, and then you've gone on that journey before you've even actually understood how you're feeling about it. Sleeping
Yes.
on things is the best as well, right? Sleeping on decisions. And I think sometimes, if you can, because also sometimes your agent's like, I need an answer now. I need you to
Yeah.
tell me. And you're like, but I can't, I don't know if I can get that time off, or I'm meant to be here on that day. You have to weigh up decisions. This literally happened to me 2 days ago for a job to go to the Maldives over
Boom.
Christmas. And it's like weighing up that thing of like, that's so amazing and absolutely I want to do this. It would mean I wouldn't be at home at Christmas. I also have to miss 3 days of my this big job that I've got. Is it
Mm.
worth messing that around? Will it come up again? It's like having that moment, I think, to fully sit and just think about it before you take action, which isn't my best skill, but
No.
when we're practicing it. And yeah, I think it's important.
I don't, you've just gone in two great ways, and it's really hard to figure out which one to do first. Let's go with the first thing first. So, throwing yourself at everything. I think that when you're trying to master a new skill, or when you're trying to see if something's a good fit for you, immersing yourself in it, in a way, linking it to the physical thing we both do, putting in the reps, see if you're liking the results it gives. Because if you always just keep yourself in the maybe, then you're never going to commit and you're never going to find out what the result will be like. So it is important to commit sometimes, start to get a feel of it. Is this a path you want to go down? But on the other side of things, you don't want to go so far down that you think, okay, this may have, knowing when to pivot. I think that becomes quite a big skill as well. Wouldn't you agree that if you're going down a certain point, having that gut instinct to go, this is good. I've got an experience from it. I'm not going to regret. I think life is too short for regrets. But maybe this isn't exactly the path I want to go down. It's cool, but it's not exactly what's working for me right now.
Yeah, and I think actually, personally, that comes with a lot of guilt sometimes.
Yes.
Because you've put in all this work. For example, like my dream when I was younger was to be a West End. All I wanted to do was West End musicals, dance, 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 West End musicals, which I still love and do. But the guilt of being like, actually, I'm going to dedicate other time to other skills at first, that's hard. Like you've dedicated your whole life and it kind of feels like you're giving up on it, even though
Mm,
you're not. You're still pursuing something because you love it. But maybe, I don't know, your life circumstances have changed, or the lifestyle doesn't appeal to you, which when you were 12, you weren't thinking about those things. So it's hard to not carry any guilt with it, I think, when you leave a path or you change your path, to just accept that's what you want to do and then move on from there.
I've had a really similar thing with wrestling and stuff recently, and thinking, how much more do I want to be identified with that? It's always going to be a part of me. I always be a wrestler, but
Yeah.
how much more do I need to go down that path? So how did you sort of realize, okay, maybe this is time to stop going down there so much and use those skills, transfer those skills elsewhere, but feel, okay, now it's time to maybe go and pursue this part of Holly, or this Holly, as opposed to the one you were there.
Yeah, funny enough, it happened kind of just before COVID or the beginning of COVID. That I found this like sudden love for acting, and it happened.
Mm.
It was on like Star Now, and there was a self-tape request, and I remember being like, oh, I had no idea about self-tape back then, and I was like, okay, I'll just try it with my brother. Actually, he helped me out, and I just loved. It wasn't even about the self-tape, but like it was the acting side of it again. Suddenly became really attractive. I was like, this is so cool. Like, there's no pressure on you. I remember going to an acting class and being like, no one knows you as that person who can do that or that, because it's
Mm.
subjective. All art's subjective, but like especially within the dance world, you're kind of really, from my experience, quite pigeonholed into things of what you're good at and what you're not so good at, or you'll have the same people working, the favorites of the college or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
became quite toxic because you're chasing like what some ensembles nowadays, like two roles that you're
Mm.
all trying to go for. And competitiveness is great, but I think at that point I kind of stepped back and I was like, why am I getting less enjoyment out of this than I am acting right now? It doesn't even have to be to do with the skill itself, I think, but if you personally aren't getting the same buzz and passion for it anymore, then why is that? Okay, I'll try something else. Oh yeah, this sets my soul on fire. This is great. And actually coming back to dancing now, I'm in love with it again, all over again. But I needed that break definitely to step away and be like, okay, what part of the dance world do I love and what do I not love? Okay, well, why don't I go on the creative side rather than be in the ensemble, or what works for you, you know?
I love what you said there, and it almost sounds to me like you needed a clean slate. You wanted to stay in creative, you wanted to stay in a creative flow, but you needed to view yourself through another lens, a lens of the acting, refresh yourself, refresh your identity. Then you can come back into dance again and see yourself as a dancer plus more. You've refreshed your life, you've refreshed yourself. So it's almost that lovely sensation. I get this a lot sometimes as well, where you understand it, it's familiar, but then again it's become new because you yourself have changed.
Totally. And that's actually the first time I've properly thought about that. Like I've just been on like go.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
you follow what you love, right? And as soon as you love something, I'm like, right, I'll go to these classes and
Yeah.
You kind of don't really look back, but actually saying that out loud, it's actually so refreshed my love for it. And I think that happens a lot with skills and acting and people that we know actually from class and stuff who are lawyers and they used to, or they're doctors now and
Yeah.
they come to class and they're like, oh, I've forgotten this like play aspect of what I used to love about it. But sometimes you need that break to appreciate it, I think.
That sense of play and almost just having something. I think everybody in their life should have a sense of, like you say, a creative a curiosity, a state of play, so you can bring that into all aspects of your life. I think it almost feels like a breath out for me. A lot of people get stuck in jobs where they have to do it, and I'm not, that's absolutely fine, but having those little moments in your life where you can just lose yourself in it and just become something else or someone else and just explore and just feel free to explore, to be a child in whichever way. And it's so important to have those moments when you say, even if it's like going to a gym and just lifting things up and down so you get that sense of peace or whatever, just to have that.
Team sports is another
Yeah.
one. Like obviously it sounds, I'm quite spiritual. It sounds, it's all well and good when you know and understand how you can get into your flow of things. But for some people, they don't even necessarily understand why they like to do something behind.
Mm,
But like they'll go to a team sport and play, and all they've been thinking about for the past hour is like hitting the ball back or, connecting with your teammates to make sure you score a try or whatever it is. Like that's still a similar feeling of what we're saying for art
yes.
within sport. So yeah, exactly. Actually, Paul's just put a good point on the chat
Go
about
on.
having the creative hobbies, even if it's not perhaps your income anymore.
Yes.
You'll you still don't miss doing it because you're able to do that for fun,
And,
for a
and it
hobby.
might it might not be such an esoteric language. It might have to be, oh, I'm in the flow state. I shouldn't talk like that because I talk like that. I'm in the flow state or whatever like that. But it's just whatever it does, whatever makes your soul sing, whatever language you want to use that makes you, but never. I think you said there's two things, but the first thing I realized is what you said there about having that sense of happiness and maybe and having a chance to actually consider it. Like you said,
Yeah,
only just now you thought back and you thought, actually, yeah, that seeing it all again and making it happy. I'm exactly the same. Do the next thing, do the next thing, excited, explore, curious, curious, curious. But actually, sometimes just being able to have that point to tune in with yourself and realize that you're very happy in that moment and experience it to its fullest, and then go after more of that. There's this lovely thing. I'm the same, let's do all these things. I'm so excited. It's a fresh menu and I want to taste everything on it. But at
yeah,
the same time, is that something actually, let me enjoy this. Let me just enjoy this. And then we can go on to the next thing. But let me just sit in this for a minute and enjoy it.
totally, totally. There's something. Oh, that's it. You just said one of my favorite words,
Go on.
curiosity.
Yes.
So, and it's funny because now I think about when you asked me at the beginning why I do all these different things. I think it's that. I think I'm just
Yes.
really curious. And I think we're kind of drilled out a little bit of us as we get older to not be as curious. It's like, don't be nosy or like, no, like, you already do this and this. You don't need to, you know, I don't know. That's a youthful thing, I think. And it's hard for people perhaps to have that curiosity. If you're going to work, you're coming home and you've got children. It's hard, I think, for yourself to keep exploring. But then you
Mm,
also see examples, I suppose, of people who are like 80 and 90. Like my grandma just went traveling in Vietnam with her new boyfriend. Like that's iconic. Like that's being curious about the world, about connections, about people. But she probably doesn't even understand it like that. It's just
just
in
does
her.
it.
Yeah.
I got to train someone in my gym the other day who was 100 years old. She's 100 years
No.
old. And I said, what, why are you here then? And she goes, I've got so much life to live. And I'm like, you're amazing. Like, and that's it. And that we talk about youthfulness or young, and it's not in the physical. There is a curious spark in the mind, and we should never lose that. Always explore those curiosities. There's always going to be something. And that's it. Like if your brain is saying why, then why not? Why? And you mentioned something as well about a little bit earlier on about having this pressure sometimes from others to make a decision now, do it now. And I understand that the industries we're in, sometimes it is about getting those decisions made quickly. Things are money driven, time driven. So we need to get things sorted out. But also, it's as important as time is, especially our own, it's really important to be able to make these choices or at least be able to consider them fully, before you commit. I think that's such an important thing you said as well. It's not always about over considering stuff. So the opportunity passes, but on the other side, just again, coming back to being in the moment, being able to sit in it and go, is this exactly what you're speaking to me now? Is this exactly what I'm identifying with now? Or do I need to pivot? Do I need to change? Do I need to follow a gut instinct and try something else?
And what's really hard, I think, about the film TV world, about the theatre world, or you're offered a job perhaps, character, here's your character, this is your bit of the script. Sometimes you don't even see the whole part of the script. So
Yes.
you're choosing to identify with that piece of work that you don't even know fully, A, what it is, B, your full involvement. If you even with contracts, it's hard to know what really you're about to identify with or not. So I think that moment before is actually really key, which I'm only seeing now as like its true value, to be honest. Because
Mm.
before I've just rushed straight in and not really thought about what you're about to identify with, but the work, right?
Yeah, and I agree as well. And I think sometimes, well, like literally like extrapolating from that, some decisions I've made that in the moment or even a few months later on, I've been like, that wasn't the best one to have done. But now, actually, where I'm at now, it was the perfect one to have done. It's like we have this idea, like you say, I want to be the West End performer, like me, I wanted to be in the WWF or whatever. But I haven't got there. But life has found a way to work out for me in a much more incredible way than I could have ever expected, laughing like a lunatic on Witcher Blood Origins. I never thought that was going to happen, but that, what an amazing life this is. What a wondrous place to be in. And it doesn't always go in the way you expect, but it goes in a way that can be sometimes even more incredible.
And exactly what you said there about it not necessarily being just also career, like all your life, like throw stuff. We're lucky that I suppose in a creative world we can express those, whether it's like dance or playing a role or whatever.
Mm,
Like as you get older as well, I do think all your life experiences suddenly help you out and help you make decisions based on character
mm.
and and like even another thing that's quite funny to do with identity is like when someone on I changed agents recently and it's like going through your spotlight CV and making sure, okay, is this all right? And you see your age bracket and it's like suddenly now like me and my friends aren't going for the roles, ensemble roles. It's like now we're in the like plus 25, 20, whatever category. So it's like that age thing is also something that's interesting for the creative world, I think.
Yeah, I must admit, it's like I don't see myself getting the romantic lead. It's like sometimes, am I even going to get a dad now? It's like a
Yeah.
little bit like, whoa, like the industry decides for you. But thank you for
Right.
keeping me on topic because we're going all over the show. You just
That's
mentioned
expected. We
something.
knew that was going to happen.
We're going to get chatting, and we. But you meant so we are going to everyone watching for a second. We are going to do not in a minute, in a few days. We're going to do a improv scene about finding a character in the moment, developing a character over a 5 minute time limit. That will be put up and posted a bit later on. But you just said about life experience, and that is so important to me. So all of these different things we do, all these different curiosities we follow, how we then determine them into a character. And okay, if you're an actor, you can sort of probably understand that. How much of your own experience do you use? How much do you use your own experiences to sort of like feed into the character? So you go, okay, I don't understand why you're doing that, but I can sort of understand your motivations, get into that. But also when we're talking to other people as well, how you use your life experiences to sort of have a certain sense of understanding about what other people are going through as well. Everybody's unique. Everybody, sometimes all you can do is just listen. But if you want to console someone or if you want to get a certain sense of like you understand the path they're going down, how you use parts of your own life experiences just to link up with them. So that's why I think getting all these curiosities, exploring all these things are so important. I mean, for you developing a character or showing yourself to other people, how much are you mining back on self? How much are you, is it a conscious effort to choose certain parts of yourself, or are you just sort of going with the feel of it?
One of my favorite things that's kind of subconscious, but I was just thinking there, especially with improv, is like thinking about people that you know or have met because you meet some
Mm.
right, well, we live in London as well and like like you meet all sorts of people. I was traveling when I went traveling. That sounds really like when I went traveling.
No,
When I
sorry.
was traveling, It's true though. When I was traveling, you meet some incredible people and people with different accents, like characters. These are all characters that
Yes.
you can use. Yeah, so I think that's a big part of it for me, not just, my own experiences, but I think people that you've met that you can take from within an improv as well.
I'm my big one. I'll admit a secret is I love going to supermarkets anyway. There's something in the East End boy in me. I'm just obsessed by walking around in supermarkets. I like looking at all the pretty things, but also as well just seeing how people behave. The- I used to be, I used to sort of like if someone had a certain type of behavior, even in body language, I would just like I'd maybe consider it for a second. I'd get a certain emotion from it, but I wouldn't question it. But as I've got deeper into acting, if someone makes me feel a certain way, maybe the way they're behaving or the tone of voice or whatever, I do tend to, if I can, really examine it now and look at what building blocks that is being used to portray that characteristics and then how I can sort of use that myself sometimes. And then, like you say, when you're in a moment, particularly with improv, it's not like I'm making a conscious decision because I think if you try and force something, then it becomes less authentic. But you'll just find you're almost picking up bits and just picking at certain strands, and then suddenly this character develops, this intrinsic mixing of different personalities becomes, and it becomes authentic. It might be a collection of many different things you've witnessed, but because they're all true, because they're all curiosities you followed, they do become authentic to you, which then resonates with people looking at it as well.
Yeah, and since we're sharing secrets, one of
Yeah.
my secrets and my favorite things to do is ordering a coffee with someone else's name and a different accent.
Oh.
Which is great until when you're waiting, that you're on your phone or something and you're waiting for your coffee and they're shouting out another name. They're like, well, it's not me. Till you forget the name that you've said. But it's quite a fun acting thing actually, like to as a different accent or a different kind of like aura, like not going as
Mm.
you, going with a different energy. It is fun. It is fun. But yeah, just remember the name that you give to the coffee guy because yeah.
I must admit, even if it's an awful character I'm playing, I tend to keep to myself. But before I play any character, I always take them out for a walk. I'll normally have a
Oh,
meditate with them and
okay.
I'll take them out for a walk. Just what body language do I have? How am I behaving in this area and stuff like that? Yeah, and then for me, the words are always important. You got to know the script, but how I find those are the wonderful moments. I'd love to hear your perception of this as well. It's like there used to be a big sense for me, and I think maybe this was with wrestling, with learning moves, maybe it's similar in dance as well, that sense of perfection, that sense of nailing it. So, and when I used to look at a script, it was like, okay, so when he says you here, he has to say it like you because he's aggressive and this is his background, this is how he states his authority. And then sometimes the line you'll get delivered back to you doesn't go like that. It doesn't enable you to deliver the line. You get some people, and there's nothing wrong with it, they're on rails. That is how they're going to deliver that line every single time. But
Yeah.
for me, I've found a big level of fun in like, this is where we're going to do an improv thing, where it's just like, let's just go with it. That's truly, we've learned all this stuff, and I think maybe this is where flow is as well. I'd love to so we have all these rules, we have all these ideas, all these experiences we have, but ultimately the trueness of it is that we might rely on them, we might not, but that's finding, losing yourself and finding yourself in that sort of ephemeral moment. That's what's so important.
Totally. And going from the dance world where absolutely you have to get every step right, give it style, has to be on the count, and like everything has to be totally perfect. Going to an acting, you can see it. A lot of dancers will get up if they're told to do a scene or something. I was at auditions today. Like you see it all the time. Dancers will get up to perform. But the thing about
Mm,
acting is they're just being, they just are. These characters aren't trying to show you what they're feeling, which we've spoken about before.
yeah.
They're just making a coffee and they're having a conversation. They're not performing. Like, but because we're so used to like dancers will walk in and will not, again, I'm generalizing, but from my experience, like I would feel like I have to go in and perform. And if I'm
You're
not making all these facial expressions when I'm listening, like that's not good enough.
yeah.
Um, so I think that's a very interesting going from the dance world into the acting world is like you're just a person now. You're not having to play ensemble member number two.
And but isn't that as well like, and I think this the illusion of perfection, I think this travels from dance, travels from performance into this everyday life as well, especially now with social media to a degree as well. This idea that we're chasing this sense of living our best life, being the truest self, being perfect, everything, the grind, everything, an entrepreneur, everything perfect balance. And ultimately, nothing is perfect. Everything is changing. Everything is evolving, sometimes even beyond us. So surely a sense of allowing understanding that things can't be perfect, but also there is a perfection in the imperfection. That's the trueness of self. That's true authenticity. When you're acting or being or performing, that because it's we all uniquely are imperfect. That's what lets people in. That's
It.
that's the
Yeah.
that's the underdog story. That's
Connection.
the thing about performance. That's a recognition. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect, but in that, we understand each other in our vulnerability.
So that vulnerability was literally the word I was going to use. Like that's when you can relate to someone when you're both sharing that. I actually have a really bad habit of when I meet someone for the first time, I do kind of overshare because as
Mm.
soon as I lay it out, I'm like, well, this makes, let's now connect because I've been completely vulnerable in that situation. Going back as well to what you just said there, my boyfriend's in the industry, is a stuntman, and we had this conversation about Instagram the other day and how important or not it is for your
Mm.
business identity. And I was saying I have a fitness Instagram and a personal Instagram. Like, oh gosh, like it's a lot to do. But actually, by separating those worlds, it does kind of keep them a bit clearer. Uh,
Yes.
for people coming to you and then you're then more relatable to them. For example, one of my PT clients will see my, like I say, my normal page, my acting and everything, and
Yeah.
be like, oh, okay, but they wouldn't be able to relate to any of the content. So
Mm.
it's another fascinating conversation about identity within social media and like, is it professional to have, is it seen as professional or unprofessional to have your personal life pictures on your business Instagram, but then that's a judgment or that's going to be
Yeah.
different for everyone, right?
And that's it. I found like I had broken myself apart quite a lot, but now, like, and this is really what embracing identity is. In the initial trailer, you are seeing lots of different subsections of me, but I'm spending this time shining a mirror to myself to go, well, actually, aren't they all co-joined? And aren't they all just aspects of me? You may resonate more with one part of me than the other, but ultimately, when you talk to me, I might go down a certain subject with you because this is something we've got commonalities on, but we could explore anything. But something you said about oversharing or sharing there, I think that openness of spirit is something that got us talking straight away. That's why we're friends now. That's why we continue. Some people live in a place of lack, a place of guardedness, a place of like, if I let you in too far, maybe you'll see the real me. And
Yeah.
ultimately, I think sometimes that fear of not allowing people to see the real you hinders quite a lot of people. Is it sometimes when you're auditioning, is it the actual audition, or is it the fact that you are very open and honest and people go, I see you, I
Yeah.
see you, I recognize you in relationships, having that sense of communication, a loving relationship, a working relationship, that you know where you stand with the other person. So there's no subterfuge, there's no standing on appearances. You're like, that person is accountable and authentic. I can trust them. So you have that bond that keeps on resonating no matter what you're doing.
Totally. And yeah, just again, like on the social media stuff. Uh,
Yes.
like the other day I went to like post a video about like just me being really excited, probably to put on my close friends, like really
Yeah.
excited about this job, blah blah. And I was like, why wouldn't I put that on my not on my close friends and to everyone? And then I was like, well, actually, I'm thinking here it's gonna seem really unprofessional to be excited about the job, which doesn't
Mm,
make any sense. But thinking about it, if I saw someone else's thing, it seems like it doesn't happen often and it looks like you're not working. So I was
yeah.
like, God, like actually, yeah, it's a complete judgment thing of like you only post the professional things and it's such a game of like how you post things and what you want to identify people to identify you as based on that.
Yeah, and this is here's a good one for you, right? So at the weekend, I was doing some car singing with my girlfriend, actually, I should say, and first time we've actually car sang together. So
Right.
and having that point of when you're actually revealing those parts of yourself, like you say, where you're being sort of like, okay, this is me. It's like you may have seen me, I don't know, serious performance artist, but then you just have a laugh. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, you've got that side to you as well, and it makes you more approachable. Makes you because you like say in social media, it's showing that one side of yourself, but maybe giving a fully realized version of yourself. You're like, oh, they can be stupid, they can be funny as well. It's finding that balance there. Or some people you can find they can be quite they're showing parts of themselves because they know it's going to be attractive, but it's still very curtailed, it's still
Yeah.
very curated. And it's like, are you be I don't know. I just think for me it's that having that authenticity and trueness and honesty. And are you being honest? That's the thing. Are you being authentic?
And I think people can read that straight away, whether it's on social
Yeah.
media or whether it's in person. You can sense whether some people are harder to fool than others, but like I feel like you can sense it if someone isn't being authentic, you
I think
know?
it comes out in time, right? It's like you see that in relationships sometimes with two people being on their best behavior, and you're just waiting for the cracks to happen. It's like I am such a nice person all
Yeah,
the time, and it's like that. It's like it
it's
can't last.
exhausting.
Yeah, I,
Oh,
I I think that's it when people say to each other, "Oh, you've changed," and it's like, have they changed or have they finally been real? Is that it? Have they
yeah.
finally been authentic?
It's funny that you say best behavior as well, because what is that? But also
Yeah,
you know what that is for you because you know your extremes of the best version, the worst version of you. So you know where that sits. But
yeah,
for me, I might meet you and be like, God, he's a bit rude, wasn't he? But for you, that might have been like quite a good day.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
changes as well based on my judgment of you and your judgment of me.
And something you said as well about sharing that post and thinking, oh, maybe people might think, I don't know, I don't want to paraphrase you, but like, you might be exhibiting a certain type of behavior that you might feel might be being negatively, but it's your joy. You want to share that with everyone because you're joyous about it, and you go, this is my joy. And sometimes I've had to check myself with that as well. It's like if I'm feeling happy, if I feel good about it, I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting, I'm aware of my privilege and stuff as well. But on the other side of things, I'm happy. And people, if they truly know me and they care about me, if someone's happy, I'm not going to suddenly go, I'm not going to try and tear them down because I don't come from a place of lack. So I'm happy in their happiness. And I think if I want to share something and people truly know me, then it's good to be open. It feels good for me. And I
Yeah.
think, it should feel good for you as well. Like the people you surround yourself with shouldn't be so different from you that if you're sharing good things about yourself that they're not they can't get something from it that lifts them too. I think I always say is we lift each other, and I agree in that. I always believe that we should all be lifting each other. We should all be good for each other and helping each other.
Totally. And I have to like a good affirmation is actually there's enough career wise, there's enough jobs for everyone.
Yes.
Like everyone has their place. Because even with this big job that I got recently, like some people's first reaction was, "Oh, how did you get that?" And I was
Yeah.
like, well, actually, believe I haven't been like sharing all these things that I've been doing to get this point, but like it's taken me about 6 years, but you
Yeah.
haven't seen 6 years. But like some people can't be happy for other people or they struggle. And I totally get that. Like it's a
Yeah.
really hard industry and it's so competitive. But like you said, there is a place for everyone. And like actually by helping each other, you might end up working on set together or you might create something together. So yeah, you can feel people's bitterness sometimes and you can feel when people are being generally authentic, I think.
I, I just think having that open, and it is tough sometimes, especially when money and like maybe living conditions and stuff are involved. But
Yeah.
just having that openness of spirit, I think like attracts like. And we both ended up on that set that day when we both took the job. How did we know that was going to happen? And there's some people, it's like, so what are you going to do now? We're going to be in the cold and the rain. It's going to be about 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be standing around waiting for a shot to happen in the cold.
Yeah.
Some people would go, swerve that, never want to do
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
for us, it was absolutely hilarious. So it's whatever, sometimes it's the most uncommon experiences that bond you. And
Yeah.
sometimes the most unlikely moments that you feel that you're not going to enjoy it, that you find true joy and curiosity in which to follow.
My probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever done came from a phone call 2 nights, or and it was like one night I think, a night before, being like, "Can you come in? We've got like a cool like couple of lines and a bit of like action work for you." I get there and it's a full crazy stunt job. It was amazing. Probably one of my favorite days ever on set. It
Mm.
incorporated like acting, incorporated a bit of dance, actually, not technically dance, but like movement. Bit of kickboxing because that's what I trained in before, so I offered that on the day. So it's like actually sometimes you say yes or no to things, and then or yes to things, and you get on set and it's completely different to what you expect, but in a good way or a bad way. You never know which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
But no, that's my favorite. That's probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever done, and it came least when you least expect it. And I actually met my boyfriend at the wrap party. So again, if I hadn't have
So
gone, that would you know what I mean. So it's a big step by step.
I say there are no coincidences now, and I love it when you do find those sort of like spiral butterfly effects where everything connects into the other. Right, last question, and I'm going to open it up to the floor. I do have to ask this. When you said about that being one of your favorite jobs, did you find that it was one of your favorite jobs because it touched on so many experiences you had before? Do you like things where you're using multiple disciplines or multiple parts of disciplines you've used before? So it's acting on all different creative parts of your brain and different parts of skills you've learned.
I think yeah,
Yeah.
being physical. Like I went to Sri Lanka and did a film this year, and I had an acting role in it, and I helped with the production side. I love the production side so much that like the acting day felt a bit of an anticlimax.
Mm,
Like that happened, and then on this independent film where I did the action day, it was so full on, and I didn't expect it. So I think because it was so physical, it got my adrenaline going, and that's where my dance training for like since I was 2.5, I started baby ballet all the way through dance school, drama school, and my first job. So like being physical is even more natural to me than it would be at that time being an actor, to where you
yeah.
can't say lines. So I got such a buzz out of it because it was like kicking door down, getting thrown into a bath, and like it was mental. So I think it incorporated so much of what I loved. So yeah, I think that's probably why, just because it was so physical.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole nother subject. We'll have to come back to this again. But the
Totally.
idea of like us being the physical identity linked to the mental and the spiritual identity, and when you can find those connections and find yourself in places where they all join up, how that just feels so amazing. I'm like, obviously we're both based in the physical, we both have been trainers, but that I think you often end up teaching the things you love, and
Yeah,
you want to be in a sense of giving and being able to share it with other people. So yeah, but I'm completely the same. When you get to link the physical with the mental and the soul sings, as I've been saying a lot tonight, that's the most purest state of
literally. You
love.
sleep well that night. You come back, you're like, oh, look at that
Oh,
fulfilling.
exactly. That's and what we both did there. Sense of peace. The mind and body has rested. Right
So
then, everyone. Hello. Let's have a listen. Has anybody got any questions? Holly, thank you so much, by the way. I'm absolutely endlessly appreciative of all the time we spend together. It doesn't feel like it's not like suddenly we go into, oh, we're doing a live
I've got to
interview
dance now.
now.
Oh,
It's
she
like,
can change my
oh,
accent.
it's when I talk about the acting and
There
but
we go.
like, yeah, exactly. Has anyone got any questions? Has anybody got anything you want to ask, or is everyone all good? We've got Paul putting some stuff up there about being childish, which I loved it last week, Paul. Thank you very much, mate. That was an amazing conversation. Anyone
That's
at
great.
all?
We don't stop being childish because we grow old. We grow old because we stop being childish.
Yeah,
Love that.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, he's an absolute amazing. Right, I think we're. You can all chat. So if anybody's not going to ask anything, I'm going to carry on. Are we all good?
Maybe you can put it in the little
Yeah,
chat box if you don't want to
I'm going to
speak.
say. I'm going to see if anyone. I'm sure people can chat. Hello. I don't think I've cut anyone off. No, me to everyone. That is a working. I'll have a look. Well, I am gonna carry on chatting then if anybody's all right. Oh, it's just lovely hearing the conversation. Thank you, MJ. All right then. Can
Appreciate it.
chat, just enjoy listening. Thank you, Josh. All right, well, I guess if no one wants to join, we'll just carry on chatting. One
Exactly.
bit before we keep going, will say quickly as well. So the next live interview, number 3, will be with my co-conspirators in my live performance. So the live performance is going to be in Margate on Thursday, the 10th of October. Well done, Phil. At 7 p.m. Tickets have already started selling. I'm so excited about it. It's like it was weird and be like we talk about manifesting stuff. When tickets started selling, I was like, oh, this is a thing now. But the next live interview is going to be on the 21st of October at 7 p.m. with the Pink Suits, the punk band that are going to be performing alongside me. But Ollie, let's just go back quickly then. We're talking about linking, and we had a perfect jumping off. Oh, hang about. As entertainers, we all wear many hats and many masks. How do you separate home Holly from acting Holly, sports Holly, etc.? Or is there a difference? Ooh,
Well, I actually don't think they're that different. I
no.
think I was thinking you were going to ask me what I think identity is.
Mm,
And I was thinking this in the shower that I actually think all of those things, Paul, actually, that you just said at home, blah, blah, it's like your identity is when you take away the pride and the ego and when you're on your own, what you're left with. And I
yes.
think that does change, obviously, depending, like I said, on who you're with and what you're up to, what you're doing. But there's a center of it that, you know, perhaps some people only keep that to themselves. So fine, that's their
Mm,
choice. But I think there is you get rid of everything else around it, the pride, the ego. What you're left with is who you are, you know, your beliefs, and they'll change. Your everything at home, how I am would be very similar, to be fair. So and then if I was to do an acting scene and it was in a home, I'd relate to what I know as my home. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Completely. I'm in such agreement with that, and I think that's something I've come to realize as well, that we talk about, there's something that I've been talking about in embracing identity with aging, maybe the physical changing and stuff like that as well. But there is this unburnished ember inside of me that powers everything, and this project pretty much came to me when I was listening to this meditation and it was saying you are not your faults. And I really had to sit with that going, but if I'm not my faults, then what am I? What is driving me?
That's true.
Yeah, what is this spark? And that's what I look at it. What you say, what are you like when no one is around you? You have no one to present to. What is that thing that when you wake up in the morning leaps you into being? And that's why I'm here now. And that's for me what you answered it perfectly as well. It's that home. And I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. What is your home? What is it when you withdraw into everything? What is the center of you? What is
Yeah.
the comfort of you? And I think that is, yeah,
I
beautiful.
think that that's also a really hard question for yourself to like answer, because
Yeah,
just sit and think about that. I'm sure everyone on this even on this call, like, what is all of it? What is that? What is
yeah.
that? So such a weird question. I'm gonna think about it.
Well, no, and to be honest, I'll be honest with you now, this is going from embracing identity into something else past this. I hope that sense of, yeah, exactly. What if you really think about it now? What is your driver? What is this wonderful spirit inside us that goes beyond the physical realm, that makes us curious and connects us? There was that point when me and you could have been on Blood Origin, freezing cold. We could have said two words to each other, could just
Yeah.
did a nod. But what connects? What makes us think, okay, oh, well, that was interesting. Or, like you'll see a certain subject or you'll see someone do a performance and you'll be like, wow, that made me feel something. And not did it just make me feel something? I want to go and experience that too. I want to see how I exist if I try and do that. And
So
it might not exactly turn out the way you want, but you experience it, you're doing it, you're being it, you're identifying with it, and it's
yeah.
identifying with you. And I
And
find that so fascinating.
I think humans are generally such curious
Yes.
creatures. Like, and that's I think that is the baseline. I think, like, if you're curious about everything, you'll sit on the tube and you'll look at people and you're constantly curious about
Yes.
everything. You watch a 2, 3-year-old child,
Oh
they
my
are
God.
really curious about everything. So I think that is the baseline of, like, potentially what home is, what your experience is from those things that you've been curious about. Oh.
I no, that's a lovely way of, we've going deep. That's a lovely way of putting it as well. I think when you look at a child like a baby and they're just that super like, wide-eyed. You know, their brain is just going having to take in all of this information, and
Really.
maybe through social conditioning or just whatever. It's like, don't look, don't question, don't
Yeah.
stare, don't ask. You know, like you're saying, why are you being nosy? Why are you asking so many questions? And I'm like, why did we shut that down? Why are we told not to be curious or interested or say hello or have a conversation with a stranger? Because travel, why is it considered a luxury to travel? Because ultimately, the more we go out and immerse ourselves in different experiences, ultimately, the more we learn about self, the more we learn about our identity, what is us, what isn't us, what we could become, what we must leave behind. So immerse yourself in as much as all these different pathways as you can, because ultimately it all becomes you and you all become it.
Totally. That's the best way of putting it, to be honest.
Nah, I just made it up. Anyway, right. But
Which is,
oh, hello, MJ with a late one. Holly, I would love to know if it's okay to ask, do you
yeah,
find it
yeah.
hard or helpful having a partner in the same industry? Are both different at work with your different hats, or is it nice to relate in what you do?
This is fascinating. Me and my boyfriend literally had this conversation actually the other day because he's a really big introvert and
Mm.
I class myself as an extrovert. So for me, there's not much difference between what you're seeing now and how I am at home. Like that's quite consistent at work as well. But he was like, like I'm quite happy just not speaking to anyone at work and kind of like he'll go on set and he'll do an amazing job and people will be like, what? Like, that it's a stunt world. It's intense. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But he will much prefer to not say anything until he's fully trusted with someone, if that makes sense.
Yes.
This is fascinating. We were talking about that. But no, I think it helps to have a partner in the industry who gets it because it's such a strange world, as we know, in terms of like the timings, the travel, the fact that like Jack had to change flights because of a job that he booked. Like that's part of the world that
Yeah.
we chose to be in. So we do have a rule, and I say it sometimes, it's like if we're both, you can see when someone's, I don't know, you had a really good day and you share it, and then the other person will come back one day and they'll have a really bad day, and it's like, okay, let's not talk about work. Like
Yeah.
sometimes that space away from it is nice as well.
I just think it's, and that goes the same for any relationship. It doesn't even have to be creative. It doesn't even have to be in a partnership. It's having that sense of communication, that sense of understanding, equanimity. And even sometimes it's not about saying anything at all. It's just about listening. It's just
Yeah,
about listening to each other. And just, I think sometimes it is just about knowing that you've been heard and be seen. That's just such an important thing as well.
yeah, especially when the industry can be so brutal. Like, yeah, dream.
The industry that developed ghosting before ghosting was a thing.
Yeah, casting as well. Working alongside the casting director recently, I had the chat with her of like, do you always let people know when they don't get work? Because it's a
Yeah.
huge thing. A couple of, shows a few years ago announced it on Twitter and they were like, oh, as an actor, I never even realized I got cut and I got to the final or I was on hold. And
Mm.
it's like that's a whole conversation as well. But yeah, fascinating.
I just think sometimes it comes down to time, and that's something that this project has taught me. And I just think maybe just growing up and stuff, but not even growing up, but just having a better sense of understanding that it's not always about you. Like your identity
Totally.
sometimes can get affronted about how could they not talk to me, or I really need this answer now. But it might just be you are your most important person. That's not selfish or arrogant. It's like this thing lives in you, the self lives in you. So sometimes you have to temper the ego a little bit and go, it might not be up to me, or it might not be my time. The timing might not be right, but that's nothing personal. It's just something that's come about.
You can get quite protective about your identity as well. If someone
Yeah.
questions something about you or a belief that you have, no, I don't. Some people will really protect that and not even have the conversation sometimes to listen to someone else. So that's
Mm.
fascinating as well, I think. Like you have to be open enough to listen, like you said, and accept as well as share.
I completely agree, and I think one of the biggest things and one of the takeaways I'd love to live with people or leave with people even is that we're having this conversation now. There can be this chance that someone could get offended or confronted by something that disagree, but I think it's opening up these conversational pathways, having the curiosity and the understanding, and maybe sometimes the courage or the vulnerability to admit I don't know or I don't agree, but then finding that conversation still where you can start to get an understanding. Because like I say, those more journeys you take, physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, the more you find the connections, the more you find that you connect with each other, and the more you get a greater sense of self. We're all connected at the end of the day.
Oh, what a way to finish.
Hey, I would love to say I come up with that, but that is literally bought on a Mickey Mouse t-shirt I bought in Disneyland. But I'm going with it. Thank you, Mickey.
Oh, dear.
Right, Holly, once again, thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
everyone, for coming tonight. Like I say, it's been awesome. I just have to say, I'm not taking that ever for granted, that the fact that people come, listen to me, listen to Holly, turn up, it means the world to me. Time is the most important thing we have. We never get it back. So the fact you've made it all here tonight, Holly, the fact you've made it here and spent this time with me, and another amazing conversation. Thank you so, so much. It's been incredible. So, yeah, is there anyone people can follow you, or anything you want to leave with anyone at all? Or
Absolutely, yeah. My Instagram is at Holly Prentice with an extra E on the end. So give me a follow. Any questions, give me a chat. I love sharing. That's how I connect with so many people, to be fair, on Instagram as well. I've met up and had training sessions with people, gone for coffees and auditioned people, got people in the room. Like that's what it's about. So yeah, totally.
amazing. Guys,
Yeah.
I will see you on October the 21st, 7 p.m. with the pink suits, or Thursday the 10th at 7 p.m. where I will be doing performance art, and then you can listen to a punk band. Have a great one. Speak to you all soon, and goodbye.